Good evening. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie, and tonight we're going to continue on our book read for The Way of the Warrior. And tonight we are going to start with chapter 3. No, not chapter 3, chapter 4. But Erwin, the author, he calls them codes. So we are going to start code 4 tonight, and we're going to read about the warrior frees their mind. But before I do that, like always, I want to go back to what we read last time and just share some highlights with you that I had highlighted that I thought stuck out to me, such as do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself. Not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. But this is the key. It's in humility that we place others above ourselves. Okay. I've also highlighted the warrior understands that ambition is a virtue equal to compassion or kindness or even humility. We are to do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but without ambition, we will find ourselves doing nothing and calling it humility. I know that was a lot, but it stuck out to me. And I have also highlighted, but if you choose the way of the warrior, living a life of service, it will demand of you the best you have. You may not need to be great, but the world needs your greatness. And last but not least, in the end, the one who serves is the one who is great, as they are the ones who love most profoundly. I thought that was beautiful. Okay. So here we are. We are going to start Code 4, The Warrior Frees Their Mind. And let's see how far I might get tonight. Okay, that sounds about right. I'm going to read a few pages to us because I like to keep our videos rather on the shorter side. I know we're all busy. So Code 4, The Warrior Frees Their Mind. The warrior cannot know their enemy if they do not know themselves. For thousands of battles a warrior will face, their greatest battle comes when they truly see themselves. There is no territory more critical or difficult for you to take than that of your inner world. Your mind is also your mind field. To find the freedom to win your ultimate battle, you must fight to free your mind. Every battle that you will ever face in the outside world must first be won in your inner world. This is why the warrior understands that they must know themselves, that they must know their mind. Though you may never live in a world defined by peace and beauty, the warrior has already come to know this world. You will never find a world that you cannot see. You cannot create a world that you do not know. You can bring to the world only what you have already fought for. Your mind tells you all that you will find. If your mind is set, you have limited to what you will discover. If your mind is free, the possibilities are limitless. An open mind allows you to see opportunities that remain closed to those with limited thinking. An open mind opens the world to you. An open mind opens the future for you. It is only with the open mind that you are truly free to dream, to imagine, and to create. The mind is not separate from the heart. They are intertwined and inseparable. 2 + 2 = 4 is only a concept until we have experienced it. Once we understand addition and then multiplication, we begin to see the power of limitless possibilities. Soon we experience that 4 - 2 = 2. We begin to understand the power and even the pain of loss. We begin to know what it means to have and then to lose. Even simple math is wrapped in human experience. In the same way, music is both mathematical and romantic. Every note carries within it emotion. Without a word being spoken, music speaks to the deepest part of the soul. There is no thought that is disconnected from emotion. For the sake of imagery, I will speak of the heart as what carries all of our experience and emotion, and the mind is the world that we create in response to the world around us as it intersects with the world within us. We do not see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. A heart filled with violence will never see a world filled with peace. You can bring hope only if you have found hope. The mind can either blind you to the possibilities or give you sight to see what no one thought was ever possible. If you do not know your mind, you may very well be a prisoner of your limited thinking. When you know your mind, you are able to open your mind. Have you ever noticed what it is that we remember? The memories that shape our lives and experiences that we never forget? In our minds, what we are trying to remember are our lives, but most of our lives have been forgotten. I can understand someone else forgetting my life. After all, most of my life is pretty much forgettable. Don't you find it strange that among all the people who have forgotten your life, you are one of them? It's a peculiar realization to know that you have forgotten most of your life. Most of the experiences, the moments, the details, they all disappear, hidden behind selected memories that we call our past. But for every moment we remember, there must be at least 1,000 others that have forgotten. And we don't forget consciously. It happens without us even taking notice. We just forget to remember. And that is much easier than remembering to forget. Some memories stick with us all our lives. They stick to us like peanut butter on the roof of our mouth. They are uncomfortable and even unwanted, and nevertheless, our only choice is to swallow. Our memories create a maze through which our future experiences have to travel. The memories we remember create the barriers that we know. The memories we do not remember create the barriers that remain unknown. All of us have both visible and invisible barriers that we filter all of our experiences through. You must never forget to remember. When you know your mind, you know your memories, and you choose your memories. What you remember is how you shape your mind. Your memories are your mind's design. The root of the word memory is simply mindful. Remembering is not a passive act. Remembering demands of you perhaps your greatest mastery. You must take mastery over your memories. It is then and only then that you will become mindful. This is the beginning of knowing your mind. You can move the walls that have trapped you into limited thinking by changing what you choose to remember. If you find yourself confounded because everything you remember is negative, limiting, and destructive, there is only one path forward. You must create new memories. When I was around 10 years old, I began a reading binge. For whatever reason, reading became a great escape for me. Behind the doors of libraries, those ancient places where books were stored away, were the endless treasures of lives I'd never lived and words I'd never known. I remember reading an endless number of books, but most of the lines that once captured my attention have long left my memory. So, I have to think that it is not incidental that there is one line from one book that I have never forgotten. I don't remember the book, I don't remember its name, and I'm not sure who the author was, but I'll never forget the line. In the middle of an obscure story, the writer described a man who suffered from a peculiar malady. This may not be an exact quote, but it's exactly how I remember it. There was once a man who was driven to madness not because he could count the drops of rain, but because he could count the spaces in between the drops of rain. I imagine thousands upon thousands of people have read that same book and have passed by that same line, yet I have never met anyone who remembers it, so I always found it curious that I could not forget it. Having now lived 5 decades, it has become clear to me why all of the things I have forgotten, I will never forget this. These words strangely created in me a sense of hope. Not that someone would be driven to madness because of the spaces between the rain, but that someone out there actually understood the madness that raged within me. What for others may have seemed an absurd and poetic description of an unrealistic struggle was for me a diagnosis for which I did not have the language to explain. How do you put into words the madness that comes from seeing every drop of rain and every space in between? The writer didn't offer me any solutions, but the cure strangely found me in the description. For as long as I can remember, I have always suffered from a particular condition that I could not fully understand or describe. The best way to describe it is encompassed in the word overload. One aspect of it seemed to be external and the other internal, but it felt as though both aspects were driving me to madness. Whenever I would walk into a room filled with people, I would feel as if I were being bombarded by unwanted information. I know that feeling. It felt as if every detail in the room was crashing in my brain and demanding its attention. I seemed to lack the natural filters that allow most people to ignore much of what was happening around them. I felt as if I could see everything, and while that may sound like a superpower, it was absolutely debilitating. It would drive me to want to be alone so I could slow down the amount of data going into my head. Wow, this describes me. It was in 2013 that I went through a process in which I received some interesting information on my neurological patterns. I did receive some good news. I had an extraordinarily high level of impulse control and a significantly high level of focus, but where I had a deficit, it was extreme. I was in the bottom percentile of what was called neurospeed, which makes me sound really slow. I remember a conversation with one particular doctor. He explained that the best way to understand this phenomenon was with the imagery of shutter speed. Most people's brains have rapid shutter speed, which creates the perception of chronology in our memories. My brain, on the other hand, was not designed for chronology, but for imaging. My shutter would open up completely and receive a massive amount of information all at the same time, and then close very slowly, creating the phenomenon of overexposure before the shutter would close. While when the shutter was open, I see every raindrop and even the spaces in between the rain. It appeared that my inability to filter out the massive data my brain was processing and my ability to retain massive amounts of information were directly interconnected. From a neurological perspective, my superpower was also my Achilles heel. My strength was my struggle. For better, for worse, the two were intertwined. It is said that our strengths are the shadows of our weaknesses. For me, this was certainly true. I have always been a person who has had 1,000 ideas a second, and although that can work wonders if you are in a room that needs problem solving, it's a nightmare when you are trying to turn your brain off. Yep, 1,000 ideas a second. Just take a moment and let that sink in. How do you stop your brain from overwhelming you with unwanted thoughts and ideas? There would be days that onslaught inside my head would be paralyzing. Ideation is a wonderful gift to be given, but sometimes it's the gift that never stops giving. It would be impossible to count how many times Kim and I have lain in bed and she would break the silence by pleading with me, "Could you please turn your brain off? It is so loud in this room and I can't even sleep." Some days it would be worse than others. On those days I would crawl up into a ball in the corner of the room and beg my brain to stop, to give me some reprieve. Some days all you want inside your head is silence. I can tell you, as someone who has been on this journey, that you need to know your mind, or else your very thoughts will drive you out of your mind. I thought I was alone in the world with this battle. Just to know that someone else understood my struggle was enough to help me face it one more day. More than that, it let me know that there was a way through, and that even maybe, if only for a moment, I could take the madness and turn it into genius. At the very least, I could take the thousands upon 10,000 voices that were in my head, and like a conductor who is not overwhelmed by the sounds coming in his direction, orchestrate them into a beautiful symphony. Looking back on my life, this was perhaps my first and greatest battle. This for me may have been the first step on my journey for the way of the warrior. I would either lose my mind or know my mind. Around the age of 12, I found myself sitting in a psychiatric chair looking at blotches of ink on a card and being asked, "What do you see?" The question was so much more profound than it seems. And if I told the doctor what I saw, he would be able to see inside of me. How would we see the world? How we see the world is how we see ourselves. The warrior understands that their mind is both their greatest strength and their greatest danger. The warrior sees every raindrop and celebrates its beauty. The warrior sees the spaces between the raindrops and sees them as a way forward. And I'm going to stop there. That was really interesting. I could relate to a lot of what he wrote. And I wonder if you could have too, or if you did too. It sounds to me like he was describing my autistic brain, but he didn't say he was autistic. So yeah, we read tonight about the warrior frees their mind. And we talked about how the spaces between the rain. I love this book. I know I say it every single time as though it's the first time I'm saying it, but I really do. I'm really finding this book to be very helpful as well. So we're going to pick up next time reading about making the rain dance as we carry on with Code 3 of our book, The Way of the Warrior by Erwin, Raphael, McManus. You all have a great night, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.